Buonasera everybody, and welcome to another edition of Cucina Quarantena. And tonight we are going to be making a traditional lasagna bolognese. So this is more traditionally what you'll find if you go to Italy, and you'll find a lasagna that's not like what we have here. What we have here is always lots of sauce, lots of drippy cheese, lots of filling, lots of meat, and that's fine. American lasagna is good, but it is not what you'll find when you go to Italy. So actually making an Italian style lasagna bolognese is so much easier in a lot of ways than the traditional American one. So what it really relies on more than anything is this. Come on over and have a look. This is Bolognese sauce. I've done a video on this previously. This is kind of loosely using the Marcella Hazan recipe, where you take the meat and you add chopped carrots, chopped onion, and chopped celery, and you saute it all together, and then you put in white wine, and then milk. You put in about a cup of milk, and then you let that simmer down, and then you add in tomatoes. I've done a slightly different take on that, very similar, but I made it in great quantities because I got one of those giant tubes of ground beef at the grocery store on clearance, and I thought I better use that all real quick. So I made a giant pot of bolognese, and in mine I added in fire roasted tomatoes, I added some fresh tomatoes, and I added minced mushrooms just to kind of give it a little bit of a different flavor, and then put in some extra herbs and spices. So the key to this, I started this yesterday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It cooked until 11 o'clock last night on super low, and then I cooked it a little bit today too. So it cooks a long time. And if you don't cook it enough, if you don't cook it a long time, it doesn't turn into this saucy quality. Come and take a look, Nico. So you can kind of see how it's turned into this sort of orange sauciness. If you don't go that long, if you don't cook it forever, it doesn't turn out like this. So you want it to look like this, where it all kind of melds together. Otherwise, you sort of see it's a little liquidy and it doesn't quite look the right way. So I made this yesterday. This is what it's going to showcase. So if you make yourself a good meat sauce, the lasagna should simply be a conveyance and a way to show that off. Now, in an American lasagna, you just add layers of ricotta or cottage cheese I use sometimes, tomato sauce, and then the noodles and mozzarella. And you layer that. We're not going to do any of that. We're not using mozzarella. We're not using ricotta. What we're going to do instead is start with a bechamel. So bechamels are really easy if you've never made them before. I'm going to show you a really simple, quick way to make a cream sauce base. And it starts with some butter. So this is about 4 tablespoons of butter. And what I typically do is more or less equal parts butter and flour. So we'll let that go a little bit. I like to give it a little bit of flavor.
Wait, if we're not using cheese, then why is there a cup of cheese back there?
Well, we're not using mozzarella.
Oh.
So we will use Parmesan. And to customize it a little bit, I am considering adding a little bit of provolone, but that wouldn't be typical. Typical for an actual lasagna bolognese in the Italian style would be that you simply have a bechamel cream sauce. I like, when I make a bechamel for something like this, to grab just a little bit of garlic and then smash the garlic and put that into the bechamel. So that just is going to be put in with the butter to kind of flavor it. So let's get this rolling. And then we have, actually the other thing we're going to do is to make this even easier. I've already got the oven going. I've set it at 350, and then I have no-bake noodles, which I got at the store. Those are just, I think, the Target brand ones. So you don't actually have to pre-boil them. I've always thought that that was the most problematic part of a lasagna, was how much work it is to boil each of the individual noodles. So I always recommend using...
And then they always end up burning on the edges.
It's not so much that, it's that sometimes when I've done it in the past, it's just you have to boil a big pot, you boil the lasagna noodles, and then trying to get those slippery lasagna noodles out of the pot in one full whole piece is pretty challenging. So I'm a little lazy also, as you know, my love. So
it's like trying to take a wet, slimy snake made out of paper out of a well.
Okay. Sure, I'll give you that. All right, so our butter is now about...
I'm the best at
You
metaphors.
are the best at metaphors. So we've got garlic butter here now. Can you smell that, Nico? Garlic butter.
Can you smell that, people? They can't smell it.
They can't smell it? Oh, okay. All right, so we've got 4 tablespoons of butter, and I'm adding more or less, just a little less than that in flour. So that was about 1/3 cup of flour. And then I'm gonna mix it all up, and this is forming a roux, which if you have done a lot of cooking, you've probably already done this before. It's just a sauce base, and that thickens a sauce. So this goes real fast. So we're gonna get our bechamel going real fast. Okay, that looks nice. Next thing I'm gonna do is just add milk. Whole milk would be better. I just have 2% right now, but that's okay.
It'll just be very slightly less creamy.
Yeah.
But that's probably fine.
All right, and then what you wanna do is make sure that floury stuff gets all incorporated into the water, or into the milk. So either you can get a whisk, and you can whisk it in, which is probably more efficient.
Definitely don't use water.
No, not water. Actually, you can use, not water, but you can use broth if you're making gravy, but not for bechamel sauce.
Oh yeah, that is how you make gravy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just the same base. It's a roux and then something, a liquid that goes into it. So whisking is fine. I'm just kind of using the spatula, the heat-proof spatula, and I'm smashing down all of that flour and butter mixed together to incorporate it. So however you want to incorporate those things together. And then this, since this is going to be the primary kind of creaminess in the recipe, you can add flavors to it. So I'm going to start off by putting some salt in it. And something else to note about sauces, and I know I've mentioned this before, is when you make pasta sauces or cream sauces, you always need to over salt them just a little bit, because once they actually go in to the pasta always stretches those flavors out, and then it's a lot less salty than you think it's going to be. So I always just vaguely over salt, and then I'm usually happy. Okay, look, and that, look how quick that is. We've already got a thick cream sauce forming. Looking good. I'm going to add a pinch of noce moscato, as we say in Italian, but this is nutmeg. Nutmeg is, yeah, it's always really good. Just a pinch of nutmeg in a cream sauce. It's always a nice accompaniment. And I started off by only putting in some of the milk. Now I'm going to add more milk, and I'm going to add the milk until I like the thickness of the cream sauce. So some people add all the milk at once. I prefer to do a little bit, let it thicken, and then slowly add the remainder until I've got the amount of bechamel that I want. I learned how to make a bechamel. Did you know this, Nico, when I lived in Rome when I was in college?
Oh.
I had never made a bechamel or a cream sauce before ever, and my professor in college taught me how to do it. She thought it was really important that everybody learn how to cook. So I'm going to keep that at a pretty medium low spot, and then I'm going to add pepper.
Ah!
What?
Your cape got in the way of the camera.
My cape?
Yeah.
I have a capey sweater on today, don't I?
Yeah.
Okay, so pepper, 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 as much as we like here. And then I have already pre-grated the Parmesan. I'm going to add a little bit of this, about half of this, into the bechamel once I get this to the thickness I want.
So it's like a cheese cream sauce.
Exactly, yeah.
Nacho cheese.
Nacho cheese. This is nacho cheese. This is my cheese. This Parmesan is probably 2 years old, 3 years old maybe, and I just keep chucking away at it. You can keep a Parmesan in your fridge forever. And then these microplanes, when the Parmesans get super hard like this, shave off just the right amount. This is, by the way, also how I go about making macaroni and cheese.
Oh yeah. Baked macaroni and cheese. You make the bechamel cheese sauce, and then you pour the pasta in, and then you add the spices.
Yeah, and that's a really good way to use up whatever random cheeses you've got left in your fridge. Okay, come on, little bechamel. Give us some bubbles.
The little bechamel that could.
The little bechamel that could. So we have 2 sauces basically, and I know that seems weird. We're not going to use all of this bolognese because that is a lot. That is 3 pounds of ground beef to start with, and probably an equal amount of other stuff.
Look
so
how much meat there is there. That
yeah.
is, if we made a lasagna out of all that, it would like fill our entire kitchen.
I think so. And the thing is that the bolognese takes so long to make. I don't see the point in making anything less than 3 pounds worth of meat. You may as well go big. Go big or go home. And what's cool is what I'll do with this when I'm done is I'll take the extra and I'll load it into quart-size freezer Ziploc bags and then put it into the fridge. And a quart-size bag filled all the way to the top is, I have found, the perfect amount of bolognese sauce for 3 people. So I just keep it there and then defrost it when we want to have pasta for lunch. I defrost the sauce and make some pasta and toss it with the pasta and it's all ready to go.
Bolognese.
Yeah. And Nico, what did you think of today's version of bolognese?
I said that it was one of the best pasta bologneses I've ever had.
That's saying something. So, thank you for the lovely compliment. Okay, come on, little bechamel. Thicken, thicken, thicken. Like they say, a watch pot never boils, so a watch bolognese or bechamel never thickens. So, what we're going to do in the meantime...
Well, we don't want it to boil.
Yeah, we don't want it to boil. So, we're going to get started with this part of the project, and that is... We're going to use...
The pan comes out.
The pan comes out. So, we're going to butter the bottom of the pan really well. There's already a little bit of Parmesan there, but I'm really buttering it.
Oh my gosh!
I know. I'm really buttering it. This pan is fantastic actually because typically I use this because nothing sticks to it. For some reason, these French Emile Henry dishes, they have such amazing surfaces
that is so much butter.
They're almost naturally nonstick.
Oh, it's so much butter, Mama. I wish you could see how much butter there is. People on the people watching, like, diabetes.
Oh, stop! What am I doing, man? Having my children be my cameraman, I tell you. All right. So, what we're going to do now is I have counted out all of our lasagna noodles.
Lasagne.
And what I have found is that it takes 3 noodles to be a layer, okay? Marcella Hazan says that there should be at least 4 to 6 layers of lasagna noodles to make a proper lasagna. What I found is if we divide it into
Shouldn't you put a little bit of the sauce on the bottom here?
I'm not ready to go yet, Nico.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I didn't know that we were
No,
not
so what
ready.
I'm doing is I'm just counting out. What I do ahead of time is count it out into 3s, and I can see ahead of time how many layers I'm going to have. So it looks like I have a total of how many layers, Nico?
1, 2, 3, 9.
No, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So
Oh
I'll
my
have 6
gosh.
layers of noodles.
Wow. Look at this big brain of mine, Mama.
All right, this is perfect. And actually, one of the things that Marcella Hazan says to make sure that your bechamel is correct is it should form a little skin on top when it's ready. And see that thickness? It's just about right. It should be the thickness of sour cream or thick gravy, basically.
My brain, I see 3 noodles and I see 3 noodles, so therefore there is 9.
Okay, so I'm going to take just a little bit of the meat, and I'm going to put this on the bottom of the pan here, along with the butter, just so we can be sure to get the noodles out of the pan again. I'm going to turn this into a very low simmer. Okay, so now at this point I have grated 2 cups of Parmesan, so I'm going to put half of that into the sauce.
Didn't we already put cheese in?
I put some in, but I didn't put enough in for the entirety of it. So you put about a cup of grated Parmesan in. And the measurements for the bechamel were 4 tablespoons of butter, about 4 tablespoons of flour, a pinch of salt, pinch of pepper, pinch of nutmeg, and then about, I would say, a cup and a half, give or take, of milk until you get the right consistency. So this looks about right.
I wouldn't think of putting nutmeg in. It's always been more of a sweet spice for me. I put it into like cakes and pies and stuff.
That's good in cream sauces. Okay. So this is pretty good. I am going to do something different. Then I'm going to break away from Marcella lasagna here just a little bit. I'm going to add 2 slices of smoked provolone, just because I like the taste of smoked cheese. So I'm going to toss this in and let this melt. If you wanted to make a more interesting cheesy sauce, you can do like we do for the macaroni and cheese and go through your fridge. You can pull out goat cheese. I like this because cheese like grocery store provolone, when it melts, it kind of has a nice silky consistency, so it makes the bechamel more into a real cheese sauce. Okay, let's just do one more for good measure.
Can't go wrong with too much cheese.
Yeah, we like good cheese. Okay, and that is beautiful, just looking at the consistency of it. So, I mean, you could, theoretically, you could stop here and then make pasta and use this as a white cheese pasta sauce. Make this, I think this would be really nice on fettuccine. Something else you could add to a bechamel like this is a little bit of smoked paprika or any other kind of paprika. All right, here we go. Let's see how it is.
It's creating its own cheese stretch.
Perfect. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little spoonful of this and put this also on the bottom of the pan. So we have a little bit of everything: butter, meat, and bechamel. And the reason we want to do this...
It's actually creating its own little cheese stretches.
The reason we want to do this is so that the first pieces of pasta, which are not cooked, will have something to touch, so that they'll start to kind of get moist, I guess you could say. Okay, so then what you do from here is you just layer it on,
so that they're not they're not going into the oven dry turkey.
No. So you have a couple of options here for how you do the sauciness. I like to keep the Bolognese sauce, the meat sauce, and the bechamel separate. Another method for this is to mix them together, and I guess it doesn't really matter, honestly. You could mix them together. They're all going to get kind of batched together at the end anyway, but it's just a preference.
I personally agree that it should be a little bit more layered than just having them all mixed together, but
yeah, I like the layering.
Oh, that looks really nice.
Yeah, okay. So a little bit of the bechamel. Another thing that often you find in this, which I don't know we could do, is peas. That's a really
peas?
Peas. That's a very common thing that people put into a lasagna bolognese. We'll keep it pure tonight, but that is one of your options. So, Nico, if I have 6 layers of noodles, how many layers of filling do I have? How many times am I going to do this?
Well, you put another layer of filling on top, right?
We'll put a little bit of the bechamel on top.
Okay. Well,
so you gotta have 1 layer on the bottom, 1 layer on the top, and then you're gonna have in between how much?
Right, so there's 1 layer of filling on the bottom and the top, and then in between there's 4.
Yep.
So 6.
Yep.
6 layers of pasta and 6 layers of filling.
6 layers of pasta and 5 layers of filling.
5 layers of filling?
Yes. Okay, so notice one of the important things of using these unbaked noodles is you have to make sure all of the noodles have liquid on them, because if they don't, and if you don't have a liquidy enough sauce,
You're just gonna get burnt noodles.
yeah, the noodles will never get cooked in any way. So that's why the bechamel is really good, because it helps. The other thing to note is when you put the noodles in like this, it may look like, oh, there's too much space, you know, because there's gaps. But once these actually start absorbing water, they're going to expand, and in the end, it's going to kind of rise up and elevate above the sides of the pan.
If you don't have any liquid, they're not going to turn into noodles. They're just going to turn into burnt crackers.
Yeah. Not very delicious, and definitely not what we're going for tonight.
Yeah.
So really, lasagna is just a conveyance for a really good meat sauce, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a way to enjoy whatever good meat sauce. And actually, this is kind of a full meal. I know that it looks like it's just meat, but it's actually tons of carrots and onions, and you can put whatever you want in the sauce if you like particular kinds of vegetables. I pureed them all, and actually that's one of the secrets of this stuff too, is that I pureed all of the veggies in the Vitamix. So they were all rough chopped, similar to the chop size of the ground beef. So in the end, that's why it looks uniform and it looks like it's all beef, is that I ground up all of those vegetables. Okay, covering that up.
Can I put the noodles on?
Yes, you may.
Yay. Sorry.
All right, so this is our last layer, and then we got to put the lid on after that.
There we go.
So here goes our last layer of meat.
That looks so good. This is gonna be a very tall lasagna.
It is. You could, if you wanted to, also sneak in other things, like if you wanted to put sauteed mushrooms or olives or something like that. That actually is a thought. We probably should have put some olives on the layers, but we're doing just a purist version of lasagna bolognese tonight. So
Garfield version.
yes, this is the perfect Garfield style lasagna. Just meat and the noodles. And it's good, so you see how the bechamel is really liquidy, so it is going to make sure all of those noodles will cook. Okay, a little bit more. And look how much of the meat sauce I have left. I have tons of bechamel left. I'm sorry, tons of bolognese left. So we will freeze that and save that for another time. And actually, one of the things we did, what did we make with the bolognese last night, Nico? Before I finished cooking it all. What was dinner last night, do you remember?
I don't.
Sloppy Joe's.
Oh, Sloppy Joe's, yeah.
So what I did was I took part of the meat out as it was cooking, because it's very similar ingredients. I portioned out the bolognese before it was done cooking. I mixed it with brown sugar, ketchup, and tomato paste, stirred that all together, and then we made Sloppy Joe's last night. So I just basically repurposed the Sloppy Joe stuff back into bolognese. So
We have one extra noodle.
that's okay. We don't need to use all of them. Although, wait, we might just...
Did you put cheese sauce on it?
I'm just measuring real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So what we want to do is now just a tiny bit of the cheese sauce, because I want to save it for the top.
A few drips of the cheese sauce.
Yeah. And then we will, if we put, I wonder if we put it really close together, if we can fit all 4.
Mama, you're a madman. You're a madwoman.
Am I? Is that crazy?
4 noodles?
Is that too much?
Oh, you've gone insane.
I think we can do it. What do you think? Can we do it?
I don't know. It's tight, but I think we can do it.
All right, we'll try it. What we'll do is we'll slightly, I'm an architect. I can figure this out here. Let's alter the structure here so they slightly overlap. There you go. Look how pretty that is. It's like the tiling of a roof. Now the problem is that they are going to expand with water, so they will go long, but then they're also going to go wide. So we may have a little
Noodle shingles.
Yeah. Okay, so next thing we're going to do here is cover the top layer with bechamel. You can put meat sauce on here too if you want. It's up to you. I like finishing off just with the bechamel. But you got to make sure you reserved enough to cover the entire thing. And this is where these heat-proof spatulas really come in handy, because they can scrape every last little bit of sauce out of a pan.
Being quite generous with that bechamel, aren't we?
Yeah, because this is going to be, it's the lid, basically. So we use the bechamel as a lid, and what that'll do is it'll help the noodles kind of steam, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, are we gonna do like that aluminum foil roof thingy?
we are going to cover it with aluminum foil also, yes, because that also helps it to steam, because that's how we get these noodles cooked. So it's really saucy looking now. I know it looks like it's way too liquidy and saucy, but that's because the noodles have not had their chance yet to absorb any of the liquid. Okay, but we have to be real careful about making sure all of it is covered. Look how pretty that is. All right.
It's very neat.
It is very neat. uncharacteristically neat for me, at least, isn't it? I'm not typically a neat and tidy person.
I wouldn't say that. I would say that you're pretty neat.
Oh.
You're neat in more ways than just being tidy.
Oh, thanks. Okay, and then that last cup of grated Parmesan is going to go on the top. I'm sorry that all of you are across the country and across the world, and I'm sorry that we can't invite people over for dinner right now because this is going to be way too much for just me and Nico to eat.
I accidentally got a little bit of that bechamel on my thumb.
And?
That is high quality.
Oh, thank you.
That is very good. Wow.
All right. Smells really good.
Pepper, pepper, pepper.
Pepper, pepper, pepper. Okay. And let's get out the tin foil. I'm turning into my grandmother saving tin foil. I remember my grandmother doing this, and now I'm doing it too, you know. Desperate times call for desperate measures. So I've been wiping down my tin foil and reusing it, which is ecological, also frugal. So what I'm going to do is I don't want to put it directly on top, because that means it's going to stick to the cheese and stuff. So I'm going to try to kind of tent it. So I'm going to form a little bit of a tent before I put it down, just by pinching the corners. Because really, what it's about here is just creating like a steam zone where it'll trap the steam in, but it won't stick to the cheese. So tenting a little bit.
So just creating like a seal on top.
Yeah, it's a seal where it's going to let it kind of steam, but it won't attach itself to the cheese. So what we want to do is we're going to put this into the oven at 350 for about 45 minutes. I'm going to check into it, and if it looks like it's cooked, then I will take off the tin foil and I will let it finish cooking for an extra 15 minutes so it browns and bubbles on the top. All right.
Are you sure it's a seal, Mama? Because it could be an otter. People mix those up a lot.
Oh, you're so funny. All right, in we go. Okay, bye-bye, little lasagna bolognese. We'll see you in a little while. Okay, so that's all there is to making lasagna bolognese. It's pretty easy. It's just steps. You can even make these steps in pieces. You can make the bechamel one day, you can make the meat sauce another day and just put them in the fridge. Assemble them when you're ready to go. Or the reason I wanted to show you this right before Thanksgiving is it's a great thing to make ahead, especially if you, I don't know if anybody's having guests this year, maybe not, but if you have any guests coming over, this lasagna, once you put it together, can be put in the fridge for up to 2 days. And that is smart because then those noodles start to soften a little bit and the flavors all blend together. So it's a really easy make-ahead meal, or if you want to take food to somebody else's house. So there you go. That is sort of a riff on Marcella Hazan's classic lasagna bolognese, but with a few of my own Cucina Quarantena additions. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Nico, as always, for being my cameraman and my little buddy. And for the rest of you, we'll be doing more cooking lessons for the rest of the week. We'll be doing bread tomorrow, and we'll see what else. Maybe I'll show you how to do the perfect turkey gravy as well. Turkey gravy. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you again later this week. Buona serata.
Bye, everybody.